I'm going to discuss with you one of the most famous and best loved poems written in the English language, Daffodils. It was composed by Romantic poet William Wordsworth, who was an early leader of Romanticism. What Romanticism is, it was a literary movement that celebrated nature and focused on human emotions. Okay. Now, William Wordsworth is regarded as one of the greatest and most loved lyric poets in the history of English literature. Let's start with the poem. The poem Daffodils is based on one of Wordsworth's own walks in the countryside of England's Lake District. Okay, the poem goes, I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills. The first line starts with the theme of solitude. I wandered lonely. He is alone and is wandering, that is roaming aimlessly. He has used the figure of speech known as simile to compare himself to a cloud that floats aimlessly over vales, that is valleys and hills. When all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. The poet exclaims that on his lonely wandering, he comes across all at once, suddenly, a crowd of golden daffodils. A crowd or a host is a term used for a large number of people. So here the poet has personified the daffodils as a crowd or a host of golden daffodils, as daffodils were in huge numbers there. Beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Now, how beautiful was the landscape which the poet was looking at. We can imagine. He has painted such a beautiful imagery in such a musical and harmonious language in this poem. There are green trees, white clouds, blue lake, and beautiful dancing golden daffodils, as if nature has painted a landscape for only the poet to behold and feel pleasure at it, and then later compose a beautiful poem like the daffodils. All the colors of nature, blue, white, green, golden, that is yellow, all are given a very harmonious touch. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of the bay. Again, we have a very beautiful simile here. We all know how beautiful twinkling stars look. The galaxy Milky Way appears as a white band of twinkling stars in the sky. We all know the Milky Way is a galaxy and Sun is one of the stars of that galaxy. Now, the belt of the fluttering daffodils are compared directly to the stars. The direct comparison, and that's why it is simile. Firstly, flowers are fluttering and dancing, and thus they appear as beautiful and radiant as stars in dark sky. And secondly, both appear to be innumerable. That is, in never-ending line. There were lots and lots, the way we see stars in the sky. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The poet is so overwhelmed by the beauty and such a large number of daffodils that he uses hyperbole, that is exaggeration, in his expression of mentioning the number of daffodils. He very beautifully gives a very inherent human quality of dancing to daffodils. At first he says that they were 10,000s. I saw at a glance. And then they were tossing their heads in sprightly dance. In a very spiritual kind of dance, they were tossing their heads, the way we see little kids tossing their heads in dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. We all know how beautiful waves of water look, but the fluttering and dancing daffodils surpassed the beauty of the waves. And the daffodils has surpassed the beauty of all its surroundings. Now, a poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. Gay means happy. So a poet could not be anything, that is, he cannot be sad or he cannot be depressed. Someone who can feel nature, someone who can see and derive pleasure from the nature, then that person could not be sad but gay in such a jocund company. Jocund means cheerful. And the waves dancing in all the pleasure, the daffodils dancing and fluttering. It was such a beautiful and it was such a cheerful sight to look on. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. This is important. Captivated by the beautiful panorama, the poet gazed and gazed, that is, looked and looked in awe. He could not even imagine what wealth all these had brought to him. His spirit is elevated now. He feels so happy, and this image, with all its refreshing and healing effect, would be kept as a treasure in his memory. The treasured memory would be his wealth for helping him in his sad time. For oft, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. The poet says that whenever he lies down on his couch in a contemplative mood, that is, in a very thoughtful, in a sad mood, the memory of the daffodils flashes in his mind and brings him happiness, nothing but happiness. The inward eye means a visual imagination, which we can see only inside our mind. Something very spiritual that cannot always be shared with other people. This is why it can only be enjoyed in solitude, when this memory brings bliss to the poet, that is perfect happiness, and it elevates his spirit and fills him with joy and pleasure. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. His loneliness is overtaken by the images of daffodils, which fills his heart with pleasure and make him feel as if he were dancing along with the daffodils. So this poem is all about cherishing the nature, the beauteous forms of nature, and deriving pleasure and deriving the healing effect that it has with it from it, and be the part of nature. So we can say that this poem is a eulogy to the restorative powers of nature, to itself as well as to humankind.